Welcome back to Yang Daily, and what a day it is. Lots of big events to get through, so let's get started. Nancy Pelosi went on MSNBC and said that perhaps a minimum income is worth considering now. She also suggested guaranteed income as a possible option on the Bill Maher show. A ringing endorsement it is not, but major progress it is. I think I just invoked Yoda there. It's cool, we all know he'd be Yang Gang. Anyway, Pelosi definitely seems to be inching her way to our side, and with her goes the Democratic Party in Congress. Heidi of Vets for Yang reports that we sent over 10,000 letters in total and 600 letters specifically to Pelosi the other day, and it seems to be having an effect. Now is not the time to relent. Now is the time to push harder than ever, Yang Gang. Think of it like tug of war. She's sliding, and it's up to us to drag her over the line. Keep those calls and letters coming. That said, most of Congress is still opposed or indifferent to UBI, and that needs to change. Treacle is calling for a hashtag trend of People versus Congress at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern today, Tuesday, and says he will be releasing a new video alongside it. Never miss a Treacle Up video. Subscribe to his YouTube channel if you haven't already. In more good news, Scott has put together a list of all the congresspeople who have expressed support for recurring payments, and the list is over 40 long. Now, that leaves room for improvement, but it's also far higher than anyone could have guessed a couple months ago. We particularly need to start flipping Republicans, as they currently represent 0% of the list, despite UBI being in line with typical Republican values. Obviously, the most beneficial thing would be to convert Trump or McConnell, as they seem to be the only ones with any agency, but others could still be an influence. There are some deep-seated misconceptions for us to work through regarding what motivates work, where purpose comes from, what causes inflation, and UBI being an investment with a positive return, not a handout or a cost. The cult ideology of workism and scarcity mindset appear to be our biggest enemies. We're making huge progress in such a short time, though, gang. Keep chipping away at those monoliths, and we'll reshape this country into one of prosperity, not oppression. Also, Andrew Shook called his congressman Patrick McHenry, and McHenry's office responded to his call saying that McHenry is very interested in UBI and would like to know more. Go, Andrew. Our friends at UBI Lab managed to wrangle their way into the Yorkshire Post. They were granted a great deal of real estate in the paper, which they made good use of to make a great case for starting a UBI trial in Yorkshire. Love it. Great work, gang. Now this will be hosting a panel discussion on UBI and the most vulnerable members of society during the crisis. The panel will include Rashida Tlaib and Stacey Rutland, founder of the Income Movement. It airs at 12:45 Eastern today, Tuesday. But on to the day's other big event, YangSpeaks. Yang's podcast aired its first episode and quickly climbed to number 13 in the top charts of Apple Podcasts. This was just below Joe Biden's podcast, which I was shocked to see anywhere in the top 50, frankly. Fortunately, within a couple of hours, that injustice was corrected, and YangSpeaks climbed to the number 8 slot, just beating out Ben Shapiro. The only podcast above him that I've actually heard of is Rogan's. And how the heck did the New York Times get to number 1? Blech. Anyway, in the first episode, Yang and Zach discussed the current state of affairs, how Yang sees the crisis playing out, and they both were very candid on their experience with the campaign. It was a great deal more honest than you'll hear hardly any other politician speak about the process of becoming a politician for sure. Yang talked about how the system molds people into robots and how his first year of anonymity and completely novice bare-bones campaign allowed him to be far more human than he might have otherwise been, and that, by the time his popularity grew to where he could afford to bring on experts and careerists, that he was confident enough to tell them to basically F off if they tried to sculpt him. It's pretty fascinating and novel, but why am I telling you? Go listen to it. And the third big event of the day was the launch of the AllAmericans campaign, an organization of over 100 businesses, nonprofits, and leaders of all varieties to combat racism and provide financial support for marginalized communities and medical relief. The campaign's website can be found at allamericans.us, where you will find opportunities to help. The launch was accompanied by a video of many big-name celebrities calling for national unity. The video was retweeted by pretty much every blue checkmark on Twitter, it seemed, including Biden, Jack, Warren, Booker, Pete, and so many more. It was pretty impressive. We need to thank and welcome all these people into our tent, and while they're here, suggest that we would really love their help fighting for basic human needs as a right as well. Finally, Yang sat down with Matt on their first episode of Matt's new podcast. Yang also did a lengthy Q&A session with Bloomberg News' Quick Take regarding the crisis, Project 100, the stimulus, what problems there are with the targeted approach, how it could be done better universally, how Yang would handle the crisis, and so on. Check it out below. And that'll do it for today's Yang Daily. Help trend #People versus Congress. Subscribe to the YangSpeaks podcast. Check out allamerican.us. Visit bailoutthepeople.com to take action. Call the congressional switchboard to send the most effective message you can to your representatives. Ship a letter to both Congress and the Ways and Means Committee. Help recruit burners and others to the cause and get everyone to sign the petition to join the UBI movement. Flood all of Congress and the White House with calls, tweets, and letters, but particularly 5 calls a day, using ResistBot or Income Movement for easy contact. Print and hand out your neighborhood outreach cards. Consult Humanity Forward, the Income Movement Aid Database, United Way, or the H3 podcast thread if you need help. Consider what we can do to push the movement forward in this critical moment and discuss with others at the local hubs and the support links. And don't forget to Yang Daily.